We're going to share all of our tips and tricks for how to get cash when you're traveling around the world. Stay tuned. At the very end, we'll tell you the secret, and it's not what you're thinking.
Yeah, we might even tell you the secret before we get to the end, because it's really that simple. And again, this video is very simply is about how do we get cash around the world in every country, at least every country that we've been to, with no transaction fees and the best exchange rates that you can get.
Yeah. So why should you listen to us? So we're Chris and Steve with EatWalkLearn. We sold everything we own in May of 21, and we've been traveling full time around the world ever since. We literally together, I think I've been to 86 countries, and Steve's been to 40 something the other.
I don't know.
This strategy has worked in every single country we have been in over the last 10 years, actually. Even though we've only been traveling for 4, this is a 10-year strategy that we have relied on for a decade now.
Yeah.
So number one, cash is really important when you travel. We prefer to use our credit card when we travel, and we use our credit cards everywhere we can, but there's always going to be situations that you need cash. You go to the local market, you might be in a society that really is a cash-based society. Mexico's one of those, Turkey's one of those. Other places, it's a credit card society. All over Europe, you just tap your phone, and you tap the phone to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So you don't need much cash in Europe, but in other places in the world, you do. And even if you're in a country that doesn't use a lot of cash, you always want to have just a few dollars or a few euros or whatever in your pocket, just in case your credit card or your ATM card or something doesn't work. You always are safe with some cash.
Right. So let's talk about, just before we get into it, what are some typical ways that people might get cash as they travel around the world?
All right. So you're sitting at home, you're about to launch on a long distance, you're in the US, you're about to launch on a long-term travel, or you're about to do your nomad life. Or even, you're just on vacation. This applies to everybody.
Right.
So number one is you should have some money, but number one is don't go to your bank.
Yeah, and this is a very typical thing. It's like, I'm going to Italy, so I need some euros. So I'm going to go, drive down to my local bank.
My Wells Fargo or my Chase.
And I'm going to, exchange some of my dollars for some euros.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. For one thing, for me, it's a hassle. You got to make an extra trip. And even you don't have to worry about the extra trip. How many euros do you need?
Right.
And now you're going to be carrying around probably more than you need.
A pile of money.
Around a lot of cash. And it's going to make me nervous. And it's going to I'm going to be like hiding it in places. We've got another video for that. But
here's your quarter, honey.
But it's a lot of stress to get that much cash in advance and have to do that extra trip to go down to the bank. And then
your bank is going to charge you. They're going to charge you a service fee. They're going to charge you a delivery fee. They might charge you a conversion fee. Right. It is probably one of the most expensive ways to get non-local currency. So whether that's Mexican pesos, European euros, Turkish lira, it doesn't matter. It's one of the most expensive ways. But we
can tell you about more expensive ways than that.
Okay. So the second way you can get money, is that what you're going to talk about?
The second way that you can get money is now that you're on your trip, and you got your US dollars or whatever you have, but you need to exchange that. So you land in whatever airport that you're in, and you see these friendly faces in these kiosks. Exchange, best rates or whatever. First of all, don't believe that they're the best rates. They're not. And when they say that there are no fees, well, they're going to charge you somewhere. These people have to make a living. This is how they make a living, on you giving them, US dollars, and they giving you back whatever the local currency is.
This just happened to me. I thought, let me just go check out what they're saying. We were in one of the Turkey airports. She says, "Oh, come over here. I'll give you some money." So I walk up and she says, "How much lira do you want, or how much dollars you want?" And I said, "I wanted 6,500 lira, which was about $200. And she goes, "Oh, no problem. Just give me your debit card, give me your ATM card, and I'll just, you don't even need to know your code. I'll take care of it for you." And I thought, well, okay, this is really interesting. So she says, "Oh, we're not going to charge you a transaction fee." Well, it's nothing. It's nothing. I'm thinking, well, she's got to make money somewhere. What I figured out was that she wanted to charge me more money to get money there through the exchange rate. So what that means is, like, instead of it costing me $1, it was going to cost me $1.05 in order to get the same amount of money. So even though there was no fee for the service, there was a fee in the exchange rate.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
It does make sense. And again, these people are very nice. They're very warm, but it's really just not going to be.
They just want your money.
You know a little bit about me, like especially if I'm on a long trip and I get off and I get to the airport, the last thing I want to do is talk to somebody. I'm an introvert. I just don't want to talk to somebody. I want to figure out how can I just get some money because I need to pay for the taxi. I want to get a bottle of water, whatever. I need some cash. I'm at the airport.
So then the other thing that people often do is they go to the ATM machine and they pull out their credit card. Oh, no. They're like, oh, it's my credit card. It's my Visa credit card or my MasterCard or whatever. And they put it in and they have a code and they get the money out. Well, if you use your credit card at an ATM machine, the bank considers that a cash advance, which is basically a loan. And they're going to charge you anywhere between 15 and 30% for that money. That is really expensive money. Don't use your credit card at an ATM machine. So don't get cash before you go. Don't go to the money kiosk, and don't go to the ATM with your credit card. So what should you do?
Well, I mean, even you say, well, obviously I should use my ATM card in an ATM machine. But there's a little caveat there because you're going to have a lot of fees. Your bank may charge you some excessive fees. And then the bank that owns the ATM machine in the country that you're in is also going to charge you a fee. And
they might even charge you an extra conversion rate.
Right.
So here's our secret. Here's our secret to how to get cash for no fees when you're traveling. So you have to do this before you leave. And that is you get an ATM card that doesn't have any transaction fees associated with it.
Right.
What does that mean? So when you go to your bank, they give you an ATM card, and they love to charge you fees. That's how they make money. So we're going to recommend 3 different banks, and the reason why we recommend these 3 banks is because we have ATM cards at these 3 banks. Right. And why do we have the 3 ATM cards?
Well, because we travel a lot. We travel full time, and we want to make sure that we can always get money. And if something happens, we lose a card, or the machine eats one of our cards, so to speak, or it goes fraud. There's a fraud alert on one of our cards. We have a backup, and we don't have a backup. We've got a backup to a backup. Or
we have an identity theft. So for example, Steve and I have one account that we each have a card at, and if my card goes fraud, his card will still work, even though it's the same account number. So that's a redundancy there. Then
it's a joint checking account,
right?
And it's with Charles Schwab,
right?
So Charles Schwab is one of the banks that we recommend, and you can reach out to them and say, "I need a no-fee ATM card," and you will set that up. Again, it takes a little time. It's not something that you do the day before you're going to leave on vacation.
Right.
There's something that you need to do in advance because obviously you're going to have money in that checking account,
right? So
that you can have that ATM and that all set up in advance.
Then I have a card at AXOS Bank, AXOS. Actually, it's considered one of the best ATM cards, one of the best debit cards in the world.
Yeah, according to Investopedia, I read that article today.
Yeah.
And they recommend AXOS as the #1 ATM card.
So I have an account there. I have an ATM card there. Now, Steve has an account. Where's your account?
At Fidelity.
Right.
And again, specifically, contact Fidelity and say, I'd like to set up a checking account with a no-fee ATM card. And by the way, how does it work? Because when I'm standing at the ATM, it says, you're going to get charged, let's just say,
an ATM fee.
$3, $5, whatever. Do you agree? And you always say yes. Say yes.
Because if you say no, it just cancels the transaction. Right. So you have to say yes.
Say yes. It does get charged, but then you get reimbursed at the end of the month. And you say, really? Your bank's going to reimburse you? Yes, every time. Again, we've been doing this for 10 years. Never fails. They never ask a question about, hey, what about that ATM transaction in Turkey? I'm not going to, no. They reimburse you for all your ATM.
And on Schwab, it says ATM fees. Rebate fee, something like ATM rebate fee. It's a plus $14 or plus $10 or plus whatever the total is for the month.
Don't have to think about it.
Same at AXOS and same at Fidelity. So not Wells Fargo, definitely not Wells Fargo. Schwab, Fidelity, and AXOS Bank all have transaction-free ATM cards. So does Ally and Needham. And there's a couple others.
Yeah, there are others.
Those that are the ones we recommend.
We're telling you about the ones that we know about.
Yeah.
That we use.
So okay, so you get out you know you're going to go to the ATM machine. You got your ATM card. You both go to the ATM. You don't both stand there. The other person stands guard, behind you, making sure no one's going to come up from behind or sneak in.
Yeah, I just want to of course I'm going to stand guard while she's using the ATM and with a look on my face like, don't come near.
Right.
But we always look for the right ATM machine. You want one that is associated with legitimate bank. Like we literally have seen Bob's ATM, right? And it's like, I'm not sure about this, if this is legitimate. And I'm not saying whether they're legitimate or not, but I feel more confident and more comfortable when I'm at an ATM machine that I know is associated with a real financial institution. And
it will say, so-and-so bank. And even if you don't even know like the word, like the local banks, bank will almost always be in the name of a bank. So it's if it's even in Turkish, you'll see bank, right? So use a bank. Don't use Euronet. Don't use the one at the liquor store. Don't use one freestanding in the middle of the Centro district where all the tourists are. Use a legitimate bank, an ATM attached to a legitimate bank, preferably that's attached to the bank building. That's a real safety issue. And then, if possible, there's new ATM machines now that you can just tap your card. Those are the best because you don't have to worry about losing your card when you put it in and put it out. If you can't find that, then of course put your card in, and then make sure you'll put your PIN number in. You'll say, I want to withdraw money. And then the next question asks you is, it might ask you, we're going to charge you $5 for using it. You have to say yes to that. But then it will ask you, do you want to use the local conversion rate? You will always say no.
Say no. And again, it's not going to cancel the transaction. But what they want to do is they want the local bank to be able to do the conversion for you from US dollars to the local currency. They're not going to give you a good rate. It's not going to, it may be, but you always, I shouldn't say always, but your bank at home, whether it be Schwab or Fidelity, they're going to give you the best transaction rate. They're going to give you the best conversion rate to that currency. So always decline allowing them to do it in the local currency.
And they may even ask you twice. They'll ask you the same question twice in a little bit different ways. Both times they'll have conversion somewhere in the wording, decline it. Okay, and then you'll get your cash. Now, people will say, and we always do this at the airport, and people will say, oh, no, don't use the ATM at the airport. It doesn't matter because you're using the exchange, the conversion rate of your bank, not of the local bank. It doesn't matter which ATM.
Yeah, and you're getting reimbursed for the
ATM
transfer for the transaction fee for the ATM fee. So it's really convenient. You get off the plane. You don't have to talk to another human being. You walk up to a machine. You're going to talk to you. You have your cash in your hand before you leave the airport. That way, if you need it for a bus or for a taxi, or you buy a bottle of water.
Yeah. Here's the big strategy of the cash. So. You go to the ATM machine, hopefully they give you a bunch of different denominations. They give you hundreds and tens and fives, but sometimes they give you just 1,000, right? And you're like, what
am I going to do with this?
Yeah, so the very first thing you want to do before you leave the airport is go buy yourself a bottle of water. You're probably thirsty anyway. You don't know if you can drink the water in the town. So go buy yourself a bottle of water.
Get a pack of gum.
Yeah.
From that long flight, you got bad breath.
Yeah, right. Break that 1,000 or break that 100 ever. So then you have smaller denominations because the minute you leave the airport, you need that for the bus. So you need that to tip the guy with your luggage or whatever. You're always going to need smaller bills almost immediately. So buy that bottle of water. It costs you $1.50 or whatever, but it's worth it because it saves you inconvenience.
Right. And let's just add one more thing, because we talked about the first thing in the beginning is that you're getting cash when you're at home. And you have to get a lot of cash because you don't know. But in this case, you can get a relatively smaller amounts. Like I know how much money I'm going to need for the next few days. So you have a small amount of the local currency in your pocket. You're not carrying around a big wad of cash. And
then when you leave the country, you're not ending up with a pile of foreign currency in your pocket that you have to sell back somewhere. Because hopefully, like us, you try to, the week before you're leaving, you realize I got €100 or whatever. you can just start spending that down. And then by the time you get to the airport, you've got no cash and you're leaving cashless, which is the best way to do it because then you have no waste.
Right.
No waste in your currency.
So you don't have to talk to other people. You're going to get the best exchange rate. You're not going to pay for the transaction ATM fees. It's worked everywhere that we've been in the 60, 70, countries that we've been to. We haven't had a problem with this. And we've got the redundancy in the multiple ATM cards. So that if something does happen, we've got something to fall back on, and we've got another way so we can continue to get cash without any hassles.
Yeah. All right. Hope this has been helpful for you. Let us know. Write comments below. Did you run into some problems? What's happened to you? Did you have fraud? What happened? Tell us in the comments. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next week.